my life. Trying to keep the constant battle. It always comes untied. It won't stay. I think it's the material that the lace is made out of. It's real nylon-y or something. Did you ever feel like life is a constant battle? Seriously, have you ever felt like life is just a constant battle? Like from one day to the next, just one constant battle. You know, life is a constant battle. I found with my clothing. Have any of you found that clothing is a constant battle?
Yeah.
Like, because my wife keeps doing something to my clothes. I've said this before, is that they keep getting smaller. And I can't figure out why she keeps shrinking my pants like she is. I'm telling her to stop it. Of course, she put me on a diet, but that didn't stick. Life's a constant battle trying to find clothes that fit, or trying to wear the clothes I want to wear because they don't fit me right anymore. And life's a constant battle in what I choose to wear anyway, because my wife always has a different opinion on what I should look like when I go out in public. See, because I want to be comfortable. And I don't care if my clothes have stains in them. I don't care if they have rips in them. I want to be comfortable. Frankly, I prefer clothes that I've worked in, clothes that have rips in them and stains, because if I want to do something with my hands, I can just jump in and do it. But my wife doesn't like me to look like a bum when I go out in public. She doesn't want me to look like that. She's like, come on, you can't go out. You're a reflection of me, you know? The two are one flesh, you know? So it's a constant battle, me trying to get out the door in the morning in the clothes that I want to wear. The day she'll say, where are you going dressed like that?
We're all out there, Jim.
It's a constant battle. It's a constant battle getting in my clothes. It's a constant battle keeping them on, because she's always telling me to get changed into something else. You know what else is a constant battle in life? Is your hair.
Yeah.
See, I don't know much about clothes, but my hair looks fierce. And not just, not my hair on my head. You can see I have an ample forehead. I've been losing this hair. There was a time in my life I didn't cut my hair for 13 years. It was this long. I can't do that anymore. It looks funny now. I look like Gallagher when I let it grow out. I don't want to look like Gallagher, so I'm growing it out somewhere and growing it out in my face. You know, and it's a constant battle, because I was determined not to trim my mustache when I decided to grow this beard. I wanted to train the hair to grow sideways, and I kept combing it and trying to make it go, and it wants to grow straight down. Have you guys ever fought this battle? The constant battle with your mustache, trying to tame it, trying to train it. And I finally gave up. I gave in to the will of my mustache, and I trimmed it this week. I couldn't take it anymore. I got tired of it, getting full of everything I was drinking and eating, so I trimmed the stupid thing off. I gave in. And that's what happens in the battle sometimes. You know, your pets. Any of you have pets? Pets, dogs, cats? They can be a constant battle, can't they? Can your pets be a constant battle? Somebody say amen. Because I got 2 dogs, and they are a constant battle in my life. The one, Bubba, he's a lab mix, and he's got a super stubborn streak in him. And I'll take him out to go to the bathroom, and he'll look at me, and if I don't have this special collar on that buzzes him, he won't listen to me. He'll look at me, I'll say, come in. I'll say, Bubba, come. He'll look at me, and he'll sit down. And I'll go out to get him, and he's about 90 pounds. He's a little overweight. He'll just plop on the side and lay there, because he knows I won't go that far. I won't pick him up and carry him in. It's a constant battle trying to get that dog back in the house. I got another dog, a golden retriever named Lila. She's crazy. Her nickname is Crazy. Sometimes it's Bossy Princess. She's pretty. She's a bossy princess. And every week at men's group, I don't want to have the dogs out because some people are afraid of dogs. And I put them up in the bedroom with Bubba. He goes right up. But Lila, every week, it's a battle. It is a tooth and nail battle getting her to go in that bedroom. And she knows when it's Thursday at 6 o'clock and it's time to go up to that room, because she fights tooth and nail. Pets can be a constant battle. You know, your kids can be a constant battle. You know, you can have a constant battle with your children. It's a constant battle to get them to go to bed, isn't it? To get them to go to bed. Our grandson has a little problem. He doesn't want to sleep at night anymore. It's a battle to get him to go to sleep. You know, and the funny thing is that kids can be a constant battle getting them out of bed in the morning. And it's funny because they want to stay somewhere so bad that they didn't want to be 8 hours earlier. And I can't figure that out. But it's a constant battle getting them out of bed. It's a constant battle getting them to school. It's a constant battle getting them to church. It's a constant battle getting them to do chores. It's a constant battle getting your kids to do anything sometimes. Some of you are nodding your heads. You know what I'm talking about. It quickly becomes a test of wills. Becomes a test of wills, and the temptation is to give in and to let them do what they want. You know, there's worse battles than all that in life, though. Temptation's a constant battle, isn't it? Temptation is a constant battle. We're constantly tempted with difficulties in life and hardship, things that are painful. In that case, the temptation is to give in. But sometimes the temptation is to give up. And fear is a constant battle. A battle constantly with fear and with anxiety. Doubt is a constant battle. Certain feelings can be a constant battle. Feelings of inadequacy, unworthiness, loneliness, grief. Things like addictions and anxiety and depression are a constant battle for some people. And I have a question for you this morning. Would you like to be confident that you could win one? Would you like to be confident that you could win one of those battles? Sometimes I just want to win. We're going to keep this series of messages going called Crazy Faith. We've been talking about crazy faith, crazy big faith, crazy in the sense of big, right? Because a lot of the Christians I know, they got this sane, logical, tame, safe faith that it really isn't that much different from a lack of faith in their life. But that isn't what I see in the Bible. When I read the Bible, I see people that had this crazy big faith. Like they believed that God would do impossible things. And they believed that God would do those impossible things through them. You know, and that faith enabled them to do extraordinary things for the benefit of other people and ultimately for the glory of God. And I've been saying it now for 6 weeks, but that's the kind of faith I want. Amen. That's the kind of faith I want. I don't want a weak, watered-down faith. I want the kind of faith like people had in the Bible. And today I want to talk to you about the kind of crazy faith that gives you confidence in the battle. We're going to be in 1 Samuel chapter 17, verses 45 through 47 will be our main text for the day. I'm not going to, while you're turning there, it's going to come up on the screen, but you can go ahead and turn to 1 Samuel 17. I encourage that. Be a Berean, don't take my word for it. I'm known to teach things wrong. But I'll fill you in on the story here. What's happened is that the nation of Israel has been invaded by a country to their west. A country called Philistia. And armies come in, and Saul's the king of Israel, and he's marshaled the army of Israel to go out and meet this threat, this Philistine army. It's come in, and they're about 16 miles or so to the southwest of Jerusalem. And the two armies have met on the field, and they're squared off against each other. The army of Israel is up on one hilltop, and the army of Philistia is on the top of another hilltop, and there's a little valley, not like the valley we talked about last week with cliffs in it, but this is just kind of maybe a more gentler slope with a level place in the middle. But both the armies are gathered on top of the valleys, facing on the hilltop. I'm sorry, I can't talk this morning. Facing each other across the valley. But here's the thing, the armies are on the hilltop, but the battle isn't going to be won on the hilltop, the battle's going to be won in the valley. And I think maybe I got to throw this out there, somebody's got to hear that word this morning, that you've been fighting a battle, and you're trying to fight that battle from the hilltop. You've been trying to fight that battle from a place where you feel safe and secure and in control, but the battle can't be won from that place. You got to step out of your comfort zone and go down into the valley to meet the enemy. In that place, you have to leave your place of control to be in a position for victory. That's a word for somebody this morning. That's not even part of the message. That's free. But somebody needed to hear that. Your battle ain't going to be won on the hilltop where you feel safe and secure and in control. It's going to be won in the valley. You got to get into the valley to position yourself for victory. That's what Israel had to do. The thing is that this battle that they're facing is going to be different from any other one that they've ever had, because this battle isn't going to be decided by two armies coming against each other. It's going to be decided by a duel between two champions. See, what happened was each man picked, the challenge was to pick one man from each army as a representative of the entire army. It would be a battle by proxy. So whoever the champions were, whoever walked out into that valley to face each other one-on-one, stood as a representative of their individual army and in the name of their individual God. And whoever the winner was, the opposite army would surrender to that man's army. So if the Philistine champion won, then Israel would surrender. The entire army would surrender. If Israel's champion won, then the Philistine army would surrender. And so you have these two guys who are going to come against each other. And in this corner, from the Philistine camp, you have the champion, a man whose name is Goliath. And this should be maybe a familiar story to some of you. The man's name is Goliath, and Goliath is pretty formidable. He's 9 foot 9 inches tall. 9 foot 9. The tallest man I ever knew was 7 foot tall. This guy's 9 foot 9. He's wearing a bronze helmet, so his head's protected. He's wearing scale armor that goes all the way down to his knees. It's like made out of cloth, but it has plates of bronze sewn all over it. He's wearing bronze-plated boots that come up to his knees, so he's completely protected. He's got a spear in his hand, a gigantic spear. And it says that the tip of the spear weighs 15 pounds. I have a 16-pound sledgehammer at home. And to imagine trying to hold that thing straight up, it's unbelievable, let alone use it to thrust at somebody. It's an unbelievable amount of weight. I was going to bring it in and pass it around, but I decided not to do that. To give you the sense of how big and powerful this guy is, he's got an enormous, on top of the spear, he's got an enormous sword strapped to his side. And on his back, he has a javelin, which is a smaller spear made for throwing, and it's made out of pure bronze. Can you imagine throwing a javelin made out of bronze? That's crazy. Enough force to throw that thing, it would go straight through you and not even stop, probably take out everything behind you. On top of that, Goliath has a guy walking in front of him carrying an enormous shield, big enough to block, like if the Israelites decide to shoot arrows or something like that. So in short, Goliath is what you call a tank. He's a tank. He's walking out onto the field. He's in the Philistine corner. So in the opposite corner, the warrior from the Israelite camp is a teenage boy named David. And David's a boy. He's not a man. He isn't wearing armor because he doesn't have any. He's dressed wearing shepherd's clothes because that's what he is. He's a shepherd. He doesn't have a sword on his side at all. He has a shepherd's staff, which he would have used when he was tending his father's sheep because that's what he did. He would have used that for walking over uneven ground and occasionally you had a crook on the end. Some of them did. They would use if a sheep got down on a hole or was stranded on the side of a cliff, they'd use it to kind of hook it and pull it up. And occasionally he'd use the staff to beat off predators that were trying to take any of the sheep, which he was charged to protect. So he's got a shepherd's staff. He's got a sling in his hand, just a long piece of leather or sinew or something with a pouch in it. He's got a pouch on his side, and he's got 5 pebbles in that pouch. And he would have used that sling for catching his supper. He would have used it for killing rabbits out in the wilderness. If this was a UFC fight, the odds on David beating Goliath would be about a quadrillion to 1. You wouldn't put your money on David in this fight. He is the underdog big time. So the armies are gathered. They're on the hilltop, the little valley, the shallow kind of valleys between them. Goliath strides out into the middle, and David walks out to meet him. And they square off against each other, and Goliath scoffs at David. He's like, "What am I, a dog that you come at me with sticks?" And he curses David by his gods. And he promises to kill him. It's like, "I'm making you a promise, boy. I'm going to kill you." And that would scare me, you know? I think my confidence might be a little bit shaken in that moment. But David wasn't shaken at all. He was supremely confident. In fact, he made a whole bunch of promises to this giant. Look what he says. This is our passage. David said to the Philistine, "You come against me with sword and spear and javelin." Yeah, you can see all that. "But I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied." this day, watch this, the Lord will hand you over to me, and I will strike you down and cut off your head. He don't even have a sword on him, guys. Today I will give the carcasses of the Philistine army to the birds of the air, and he's going to defeat the whole army. Birds of the air and the beasts of the earth, and the whole world will know that there is a God in Israel. All those gathered here will know that it is not by sword or spear that the Lord saves, for the battle is the Lord's. Somebody say, the battle is the Lord's. And He will give all of you into our hands. That's crazy faith right there. David walked down that valley and he told that guy, oh my goodness, he's supremely confident, not just that he could win, but that he was going to win. And of course you know the rest of the story, right? You guys know the rest of the story? I think maybe in that moment Goliath was like, I picture Homer Simpson, when Bart really made him mad. Why you little, And he came at David. I don't know if he did that or not. I don't know if he was an angry guy. We know this much about. So he came at David. And David strode forward, and he took a pebble out, and he loaded it in his sling, and he whirred it, and he shot that thing. It was one of the most awesome ballistic shots ever, because it hit the dude, whether some people think Goliath was so mad he threw his head back and the helmet fell off. But if not, there was a tiny space there, and he hit it, and the pebble hit him with such force that it sunk into his forehead. They probably heard it. Crack! And he did one of these. He did the Nestea plunge. Straight back. Out cold. On the ground. Horizontal bop. Whack! He's down. And of course, you got to think at that moment. You ever watch like a football game and someone like some crazy catch and you're just like, I got to think that's kind of what it was. I bet it was dead quiet. Just for at least, it probably seemed like forever, but it was a second. Goliath hits the ground. David runs up to him, takes the sword, this gigantic sword that's probably bigger than him. He kills him, and then he chops his head off with it and pulls the head off. And at that moment, the silence breaks, and the place goes wild. It erupts. The Philistines go, oh no! And they take off running the other direction. The Israelites let out the war cry, and they surge into the valley after him. And it's a done deal. And the point is that overwhelming victory came that day because one boy was totally confident that he could win that battle. And confidence is important in any battle that you fight. Confidence is important in any challenge that you face in life. Confidence is important in any conflict that you find yourself in for a couple reasons. The first one is that confidence gets you in the fight. Confidence gets you in the fight in the first place. You won't engage the enemy without confidence. The story is that Goliath, he came out of that camp and challenged the armies of Israel for 40 days. And for 40 days, every time he came out, all those men trembled in fear at the sight of him. Not one single person accepted the challenge because not one single person was confident that they could win the fight. And it's understandable because there was a lot riding on it, right? Whoever lost, like your whole army lost if you lost. Your nation lost if you lost. That takes a lot of confidence to walk down in there. Whoever went down there to face that giant had to be really confident. And here's the thing, not even Saul was confident enough that he could take Goliath. And something about Saul is that Saul was a giant in his own right. Saul was probably like 7 feet tall, which was really tall for back then. He stood 18 inches taller than everybody else that was in the Israelite army. But Saul didn't have the confidence that he could take the giant. And there's a point there. There's a point there that if you measure your problems against yourself, your problems will always look bigger. It doesn't matter how big you are. It doesn't matter what your abilities are. It doesn't matter what your skills are. If you compare them to yourself, your problems will always look bigger than you are. Saul was the man for the job, but he didn't have the confidence that he could do it because he wasn't comparing Goliath to his God. He was comparing Goliath to himself. Confidence gets you in the fight. You guys ever hear of I like study the wars that we've been in as a country, like the Vietnam War. Did you ever Did you ever hear of a guy named Carlos Hathcock? You ever hear Carlos Hathcock? Carlos Hathcock was he's the most famous sniper from the Vietnam era, and he was a sniper, right? So this guy knew about making a crazy shot, and he's famous among other things for a mission that he took where he was asked to go in and take out an NVA, North Vietnamese Army general, and it was a really, really dangerous, super dangerous mission. And what he did was he got to within a couple miles or so of where he was, and he wore a ghillie suit, which made him blend in really, really well. He had to crawl across an open field for I don't know how far, thousands of yards. It took him 2 days to crawl across this field to get into position where the NVA general was, that he could get a clean shot at him. And he wiggled on his side. He didn't crawl on his belly, but on his side, he said. I watched the interview with him. And till he was within about, conservatively, 700 yards. It may have been longer than that. He was armed with a 30-06, which I think is the best rifle ever. And he had a 30-06. You 30-06 fans know what I'm talking about. And he finally got a clean shot at the guy, and he popped him 700 yards away. And then he got out of there. It's just as hard getting back out as it was to get in. And the thing about that mission is that it was almost a suicide mission. It was voluntary. When that mission was given out, they asked for volunteers. They didn't tell anybody to do it. And of all the snipers on Carlos Hathcock's team, he was the only one that felt confident that he could pull it off. And you need to understand that he was near the end of his tour when he took that mission. He didn't have very much longer to have to be over there. But for the sake of his men, he didn't think he had a guy on his team that could pull that shot off, and he knew that he could. He was confident that he could do it, and that got him in the fight. And that battle was won. Confidence gets you in the fight. Confidence increases your chance of victory. You know, it's possible to win a battle without confidence. It's possible to. I was in a shooting competition one time with a flintlock, and if you've ever shot a flintlock, you know how hard it is to shoot straight with one of them. And one of the things, you had to hit an apple from like maybe 100 yards or something. I had absolutely no confidence I could pull it off. I put the bead on and shot, the thing exploded. I couldn't believe it. So I was really, really surprised that I pulled that off. I didn't think that I could do it, but I did. You can win you can get a victory without being confident of it, but it's not very likely without it. But, if you're not confident that you can pull it off, it's not likely that it's going to happen. I remember our oldest son, Alex, he was taking his driver's permit test. He was ready to, or at least he thought he was ready to. And it was on a Saturday. I took him into the DMV to take his test, and he took it real fast. Like, he was done right away, and he walked back over to me, sat down, and he goes, I failed, let's go. I'm like, oh, wow, he probably feels bad. So we were in the car on the way back, and I tried to talk to him. I was going to tell him, study more. I was like, so what happened in there? He goes, oh, everybody says you failed the first time, so I just figured that I would. I just wanted to get that out of the way. I'm like, I had stuff to do today. You drove me in. I drove you in here, and you didn't expect to win. You expected to fail. If you plan to fail, you'll fail. Confidence increases your chance of victory. Confidence calms your nerves. David's shot. That has to be one of the greatest shots in history. And it required him to be calm. It required him to be cool. It required him to be collected, to not pull that shot. Yeah, the Lord granted it. The Lord made it fly straight, and the Lord, he still had to swing the sling. And another famous thing that Carlos Hathcock did in Vietnam. You guys ever see Saving Private Ryan? Movie Saving Private Ryan. Do you remember the scene where there was a American sniper squared off against a German sniper who's up in a bell tower, and he saw the glint of the scope, and he shot right through the scope of the gun, of the German sniper's gun, he killed the guy? That's actually a real life story. Carlos Hathcock pulled that off in Vietnam. He was tracking an NVA sniper that was picking off men in the Marine camp, and he went out in the field to try to find him, and he circled, they picked cat and mouse for a while. The guy even took a shot at him at one point, but he squared off with him. There was about 500 yards across the field, and he was just scoping the tree line, and he saw a glint of light. He saw it again, and he put the scope across there, he put it on it, and he shot. And he went up to investigate, and that's exactly what happened. He shot the NVA sniper right through the scope of his own gun. That really happened there in Vietnam. And the thing is that in battle, when you're in a battle, you have to be calm. You have to be cool. You have to be collected so that you can make good decisions, right? You have to make good decisions. The biggest beef with a bad quarterback in the NFL is that they don't make good decisions under pressure, right? You got to be confident so that you don't pull the shot when it's time. Would you like to know where that kind of confidence comes from? Would you like to know where David got it from? Somebody? One of you does? Okay. These will be in your bulletin. Confidence comes from proper placement. You know, there's such a thing as misplaced confidence. I went on the interweb and I was looking at just Google confidence to find out what people are doing, what's out there, what are people learning about being more confident. And there was some pretty weird stuff. One of the funniest ones was channel one of your heroes. Like, think of somebody you know who's really confident, who did something great, and channel them. Like, try to suck in their personality or something. Like, what? Like, really? That's the best that the world can offer. That's really weird, you know? And there's all kinds of crazy stuff out there on the interweb, you know? That was like Forbes magazine or something. It was like a serious article that actually said that. And the thing is about all that stuff, like anything that you read on the interweb or anything, it's all about having greater self-confidence. And there's absolutely nothing more anti-biblical than the idea of self-confidence. You can read the Bible from Genesis through Revelation, and you won't find one thing in there that helps you have greater self-confidence. You won't find it in there. What you will find in the Bible is how to have greater God confidence. Like David did. David said that the battle belongs to the Lord. He had confidence in God. See, your battle belongs to the Lord too. Your battle belongs to the Lord. Can I preach about Jesus for just a minute? Please do, right? That's what you kind of came for today. See, David's victory in this battle over Goliath and the Philistine army was symbolic of Jesus' victory over Satan and the army of demons that he possesses at his command. See, David is what they call a type. In the Bible, the word in Greek is tupe, and it means a foreshadowing or a prefiguring. It's a shadow of something that was to come. David is a shadow of Christ. He's kind of a prefiguring of him in the Old Testament. He lived in Bethlehem. Bethlehem is the city of David. Jesus was born in Bethlehem. You start to see the significance here. Goliath and his army were symbolic of Satan and his army of demons. And just as the army of Israel cowered before a 9'9" tall giant armed with a giant sword who wielded that sword and caused them to cower in fear, the world cowered in fear before Satan, who wasn't wielding a sword or a spear or a javelin. He was wielding the power of sin and death. It says in Hebrews 2:14-15. That's in your homework for this week. I hope that you read that. But Satan kept the world in bondage through fear of death, because he had the power of sin. And just as David seemed weak, he seemed incapable of winning this battle, so Christ seemed weak and incapable of winning the battle against Satan. And just as David had a weapon that seemed inadequate for the battle, a sling and a stone, Christ had a weapon that seemed inadequate, a cross and some nails. And you know how that story ended too, right? Woo! Jesus won that battle. Amen. And the point is that Jesus has already defeated some of the giants in your life. Jesus has already defeated the giant called sin. Jesus has already defeated the giant called death. Jesus has already defeated the giant called fear. The one called doubt. He's defeated the giant that goes by the name of lies that you believe about yourself. And he's defeated the giant called temptation. And I tell you that because maybe you're facing something in your life that you've never actually had a victory over before. Some sin, some habit, some fear, some doubt, some lie. And it might be that you can't win that battle because your confidence has been misplaced. Because you can't defeat sin with the flesh. You can't defeat a habit by trying harder to break it. You can't defeat fear and anxiety by finding more confidence in yourself and in your ability. You can't defeat doubt by finding more faith in yourself. You can't defeat a lie by finding truth in yourself or in the world. You can look and look and look, and you'll never, ever find the truth that will set you free. The only place that is found is in Jesus Christ. The battle belongs to Him. He already won it. See, we're fighting battles that Jesus already won. And I wonder why we can't win. If your faith has been properly placed in Jesus, so that the battle belongs to Him, if your faith isn't in yourself, then you can be absolutely confident of a victory. Confidence comes from proper placement. It also comes from past victories. Confidence comes from past victories. You know, when David went into the camp, his father sent him there to bring some food to his brothers who were fighting. He started asking around, what's going to be done? What would happen if a guy actually went out and fought this giant? What would the king do for him? And he's like, who is this uncircumcised Philistine anyway that he should defy the armies of the living God? He kept talking to people. Eventually, people were like, hey, they took him to Saul and said, this kid wants to fight the giant. And he talked to Saul. And the first thing that Saul said, he said, you can't. He said, you can't fight the giant. He said, he's been a warrior from his youth, but David disagreed with him. David disagreed with him. He said, I love this exchange. David says to Saul, look, your servant's been keeping his father's sheep. Like, that's perfect battle resume, right? Your servant's been keeping his father's sheep. When a lion or a bear came and carried off a sheep from the flock, I went after it. I struck it and rescued the sheep from its mouth. When it turned on me, I seized it by its hair, struck it, and killed it. Your servant has killed both the lion and the bear. This uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them, because he has defied the armies of the living God. The Lord who delivered me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will deliver me from the hand of this Philistine. It's like, how can it go any other way? Saul's heard that story, and he's like, wow, that's kind of crazy. Okay, go ahead and fight. Your Lord be with you, you know. He sent him out into the battle. And David had enough sense to know that his victories came through God's power. And that if God did it once, He would do it again.
Amen.
See, I read that this week. It's one of those stories that I've read so many times. But it hit me. Like, it jumped out at me. Grabbed a hold of me. Like, David wasn't only brave, or maybe stupid. You know, a lion. Have you ever been to the zoo and seen him, like a male lion? It is a formidable animal. Or if there's a female lion, it doesn't matter, you know. He's a boy. And he comes in and grabs a sheep and it runs off with it. What's he do? He chases after the thing. He gets to it, he whacks it, probably with the staff, grabs a hold of the sheep in its mouth, and he yanks it out. Now, I got a dog, my golden retriever, Lila. She's nuts. She has a little bit of food aggression. And if I try to take her bowl away, she looks like a lion. She'll bare her fangs and she'll go crazy. I can't feed her. I feed her when she's in a crate. I'm trying to break her of that. She came from a puppy mill. It's a long story. She's got issues in her past, right? Wounded people wound people. That's a whole nother message. But, so David rips this sheep out of a hungry lion's mouth. That thing had to turn on him with all the ferocity of the carnivorous predator that it was. Like, I can't imagine doing that, okay? And then, though, when it comes at him, he's got the sheep under one arm, maybe his staff in his hand, he whacks it on the head. No, it says first he grabbed it by the fur and he drilled the thing. And he hit it hard enough to kill it. And that's crazy. Like, I read that and like, no wonder Saul's like, okay, you go fight this guy. All right, nobody's ever done that. He didn't even have a sword. He didn't have a 450 Bushmaster. He didn't have a 300 Win Mag. He didn't have a sword. He didn't know how to use one. He didn't have a battle axe. He either killed the thing with his bare hands or with his staff. And like, if that would have happened just one time, maybe he could have thought that it was a complete fluke, you know? And but then it happened again with a bear. Like, grabbed it by the fur, ripped the sheep out of its mouth, grabbed it by the fur and drilled it between the eyes hard enough to kill it. Maybe he ate bear that night. Yeah. David he had enough sense. We don't have sense. David didn't go out and buy a t-shirt have a maid that said #1 bear killer. You know? He knew that power didn't come from himself. He knew that it came from God. See, right before this story in chapter 16, it says that Saul lost God's favor as the king, and God had rejected him as the king of Israel because he did a bunch of stuff really, really wrong. And he sent Samuel, the prophet, to anoint the next king. And of course, you know the story. He anointed David. He poured the oil over his head. And it says when that happened in 1 Samuel 16:13, it says that the Spirit of the Lord came upon him with power. The Spirit of the Lord came upon him with power. So where did it come from, David? David knew the story of Samson. He knew that the Spirit of the Lord had come upon Samson in the same exact way. And that Samson himself had killed a lion in the same way. David was smart enough to know that power didn't come from himself. It came from the Spirit of God who rested mightily upon him. And he knew that same Spirit who empowered him to kill the lion and then empowered him to kill the bear and rescue the sheep would also empower him to kill the giant standing before him and rescue Israel. And here's the thing, guys. You have the same Spirit. You have the same Spirit. He didn't change from the Old Testament to the New. And every victory that you've ever won came by His power as a Christian. Every victory that you've ever won has come by the power of the Spirit of God. And if God did it once, He'll do it again. Somebody say He'll do it again. He'll do it again. If God gave you a victory over doubt, then He'll give you a victory over lust. If He gave you a victory over lust, He'll give you a victory over foul language. If He gave you a victory over foul language, He'll give you a victory over addiction. If He gave you a victory over addiction, He'll give you a victory over anger. If He did it once, He'll do it again. If He gave you a victory over lying, He'll give you a victory over bitterness in your heart. He'll give you a victory over financial unmanageability. He'll give you a victory over envy and greed and pride and every other thing that sets itself up in opposition to God's will for your life. And that'll come by the same Spirit. If God gave you a victory in the past, and you can be confident that He'll do it again. See, we go into battles every time like it's the first time ever. David didn't go in with that mentality. He knew that the same Spirit would give him victory again. And here's another thing. Is that David fought those battles with the lion and with the bear in the wilderness when nobody was around watching. There was nobody. He wouldn't have got the Medal of Honor because nobody would have seen it happen. And that happened to a lot of men in war. But the point is that the battles that you fight when nobody else is around, the battles that are unseen and unsung, that nobody else sees happen, they're the ones that matter the most. Because they become the foundation of confidence for the bigger battles to come in the future. Does that make sense? Confidence comes from past victories. And finally, men, with this, it comes from a noble purpose. It comes from a noble purpose. David was confident because his purpose was not his own glory. His purpose was the glory of God's name. His purpose was the glory of God's name. He said, I'm going to kill you. Goliath, I'm going to kill you, and the whole world. He didn't say the whole world's going to know how awesome I am. He didn't say the whole world's going to know how great I am or how great of a warrior I am. He said the whole world is going to know that there's a God in Israel. Amen. He did it for the glory of God's name. Listen, guys, if your purpose is the glory of, in any battle, any challenge, any conflict that you find yourself in, if your purpose is God's glory, then you can be confident of a victory because God will always glorify His name. God will always glorify His name. Don't take my word for it. Listen to what Jesus said about it. Jesus is on His way to the cross. This is John chapter 12. This is right after the triumphal entry. He's in Jerusalem. And He says, now my heart is troubled. And what shall I say? Like, how should I pray? I'm troubled. Should I pray, Father, save me from this hour? No. It was for this very reason that I came to this hour. See, Jesus is on His way to the cross. He's on His way to the biggest battle ever in human history. The hinge pin of human history. The crux of human history. The battle upon which every other battle hangs. He's on His way to that battle. The most monumental battle ever. And He knew that it was going to be painful. He knew that it was going to be hard. And in His humanness, He was troubled over it, like anybody would be. But he steeled himself. He remembered, I'm not going to ask God to deliver me. I'm not going to ask God to take the potential of the battle away, because he knew that that was for the very reason that he came. The very reason that he took on flesh. The very reason that he came into the world was to fight this battle. It says in 1 John that Jesus appeared for this reason, to destroy the works of the devil. You know, that's why he came. Jesus came to destroy the works of the devil. Can I preach about Jesus a little bit today? Woo! He's awesome. Of course, you know how that battle turned out. He won that battle with a wooden cross and a couple nails. And that ain't the prayer that he prayed. He steeled himself with his purpose. And he prayed this way. And he did it as an example for us. No, this is how I'm going to pray on the way to this monumental battle. Father, glorify your name. Then a voice came from heaven. Maybe the third time this ever happened in the New Testament. I have glorified it and will glorify it again. And it says right after that, that voice was not for Jesus' benefit, but for the benefit of those who were standing there, who heard it speak. I will glorify my name, and I will glorify it again. Jesus' purpose wasn't his own glory. He wasn't trying to make his own name great. His name became great. His name became greater than any other name. Just as David's name became great, Jesus' name became infinitely greater because of the battle that he won. But he didn't do it to make his name great. He did it for the glory of his Father. Amen. That was how he went into that battle. Lots of things in life will change, but one thing that will never change is that God will always glorify his name. God will always glorify his name. And if your purpose is to glorify the name of the God, and the name of God Almighty, the name of Jesus Christ, if that's your purpose, is to glorify his name, then you can be confident of a victory in any battle that you find yourself in. In my own struggle with addiction, I've had a prayer that I prayed very early on. I remember I was reading in the book of Ezekiel, and every time that God, well, not every time, but a lot of times when God gave Ezekiel a prophecy, he told him to end it with this tagline, then they will know that I am the Lord. Amen. Like when this comes to pass, then they will know that I am the Lord. And I started praying that way. I didn't ask God to strengthen my will against the things that I was tempted with, just so that I could have a better day, just so that I could have a better life. I started praying, strengthen my will, strengthen me against this temptation. I still pray this way all the time. I say, strengthen me against this temptation for this purpose, so that my life will glorify you, so that others will know that you are the Lord. That's my purpose. My purpose isn't me having a better life. It's the glory of his name, and so that others know that he is the Lord and find the same freedom that I did in him. And the point is that the battle isn't about you. Whatever battle you find yourself in, it ain't about you. Whatever conflict, whatever challenge you face, it's not about you. If it is, you can't have any confidence of victory. But if it's about God's glory, you can say to whatever giant you're facing, you can say, you come against me with temptation. You come against me with the world's might. You come against me with doubt and lies and everything else. But I come against you in the name of God Almighty. And today, giant, you will not be fighting against me. You will be fighting against the living God. And you don't have a chance. Giant, I actually feel bad for you right now. Amen. So you can have complete confidence when it's not misplaced, when your faith has been properly placed, whenever you realize this ain't the first battle that you've ever been through, and find confidence on the basis of your past victories that you accomplished by the power of God's Spirit. And when your purpose isn't you, it isn't about you, but about God's glory, you can be confident of a win. Wouldn't it be good to know? Amen. Wouldn't it be good to have some confidence that you can win a battle? Amen. That you can win one? Today's your day. Amen. Today's Jesus' day. Stand with me.